She thought love was over at 50 until a stranger left a letter at her door-story. Sometimes life doesn't bring you love when you're looking for it. Sometimes it brings love when you finally stop believing in it. At 50, Emily Parker had convinced herself that her romantic life was over. She lived alone in a quiet little town called Willow Creek, in a modest blue house surrounded by lavender bushes and old maple trees. Her marriage had ended years earlier, and her daughter had moved to another state after starting her own family. Emily wasn't unhappy. At least, that's what she told everyone. She had her books, her garden, her morning walks, and a small bakery where she bought coffee every Saturday. But deep inside, there was an emptiness she rarely admitted. Then one rainy Thursday morning, something strange happened. Emily opened her front door and found a white envelope lying on the doorstep. There was no stamp, no address, only her name written across the front. Emily. She looked around the quiet street. Nobody was there. Curious, she opened it. Inside was a short handwritten note. Some people spend their whole lives giving love to others and forget they deserve to receive it too. Emily stared at the words for several seconds. There was no signature. She didn't know what to think. She almost threw the letter away. Instead, she placed it beside a vase of flowers on her kitchen table. The next morning, another envelope appeared. This one said, "You smiled at the old woman outside the bakery yesterday. She probably needed that smile more than you know." Emily froze. Someone had been watching her. She should have been frightened. Instead, strangely, she felt curious. For the next 7 days, another letter appeared every morning. The messages weren't romantic. They were personal. They reminded her that she had a beautiful garden, that she always carried a book during her walks, that she laughed whenever children played near the park. Whoever was writing them knew things about her that most people never noticed. And that was what touched her most. Someone was actually noticing her. On the 8th morning, there was no letter. Emily waited. Nothing. By afternoon, she found herself checking the window every few minutes. By evening, she was disappointed. She hated herself for it. "Emily," she whispered, "you don't even know who this person is." The next morning, she finally received another envelope. This time, there was only one sentence. "If you want to know who I am, come to the old train station at sunset." Emily's heart began pounding. She almost didn't go, but curiosity won. At sunset, she walked toward the abandoned train station at the edge of town. The platform was nearly empty. Then she saw him, a man standing beneath the old station clock. He was around 55, with silver beginning to show in his dark hair. His name was Daniel. Emily recognized him immediately. He was a quiet owner of the small bookstore downtown. They had seen each other many times, but they had never really spoken. "Daniel?" Emily asked. He nodded. "I owe you an explanation." Emily crossed her arms. "You're the one who wrote the letters?" "Yes." "Why?" Daniel looked toward the fading sunlight. "Because I noticed you." Those 3 words silenced her. He continued. "I lost my wife 6 years ago. After she died, I stopped believing that life would surprise me again. Then one morning, I saw you helping a little boy pick up his books outside the bookstore." Emily remembered. "You smiled at him," Daniel said. "And I remember thinking, I hadn't seen someone smile like that in a very long time." Emily's expression softened. "So you started writing letters?" "I want to tell you that someone still saw the good in you." She looked down. "Why didn't you simply talk to me?" Daniel smiled sadly. "Because I was afraid." "Afraid of me?" "No, afraid of hoping again." Emily understood that feeling. For years, she had protected herself from disappointment by refusing to expect anything. Maybe Daniel had done the same. They stood quietly beneath the old clock. Then Emily smiled. "You know, Daniel, you could have just invited me for coffee." He laughed. "I was trying to be mysterious." "You failed." They both laughed. And that was the beginning. Not a dramatic beginning. Not a perfect one. Just 2 people sitting in a small cafe the next morning, drinking coffee and talking about everything they've been too afraid to say to anyone else. Weeks passed. Emily began visiting Daniel's bookstore. Daniel started helping her in the garden. They cooked together, walked together, argued about books, laughed about old movies, and slowly, without either of them noticing exactly when it happened, they became important to each other. Then winter arrived. One evening, Emily received a phone call from her daughter. Her daughter wanted Emily to move closer to her family. "It would be easier for you," she said. Emily understood. She loved her daughter, but the thought of leaving Willow Creek suddenly hurt, especially because of Daniel. The following morning, Emily told him. Daniel listened quietly. "You should go if that's what makes you happy," he said. Emily stared at him. "That's all you're going to say? What do you want me to say?" "I don't know." Daniel looked away. "I've already lost someone I loved once. I don't want to hold you back from your family." Emily's eyes filled with tears. "And what about us?" Daniel didn't answer. That silence hurt more than any argument could have. For the next few days, they barely spoke. Emily packed boxes. Daniel returned to his bookstore. Both were pretending they were fine. Neither was. Then, on the morning Emily planned to leave, she found something on her doorstep, a white envelope. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was Daniel's handwriting. "You once told me that people don't get second chances at our age." I disagreed, but I was too afraid to say it. She continued reading. "I don't know how much time we have left. None of us do. But I know this. I would rather spend whatever time remains beside you than spend another year pretending I don't need you." Emily couldn't hold back her tears. At the bottom of the letter was one final sentence. "If you're willing, let's stop being afraid." Emily ran. She ran all the way to Daniel's bookstore. When she opened the door, Daniel looked up. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Emily walked toward him. "I'm not leaving." Daniel's eyes filled with tears. "Are you sure?" "No," she whispered, "but I'm sure about you." Daniel smiled. He reached for her hand, and after years of loneliness, fear, and believing that the best parts of life were already behind them, Emily finally understood something. Love doesn't always arrive when you're young. Sometimes it arrives after heartbreak, after disappointment, after years of loneliness. Sometimes it arrives quietly, in the form of a handwritten letter left on your doorstep. And sometimes, the person who changes your life isn't someone you were searching for. They're simply someone who noticed you when everyone else stopped looking. Emily never moved away. Daniel never stopped writing her letters. And years later, when someone asked Emily what made her believe in love again, she smiled and answered, "It wasn't the letters. It was knowing that someone finally saw me." And perhaps that's what love really is. Not finding someone perfect, but finding someone who sees your imperfect life and chooses to stay.